right, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of Decide to Dominate. We've got a very special guest today, another local legend in the Virginia Beach, Tidewater area, Mr. Gary Lavelle. Spent 13 years in the MLB, two-time All-Star, 70th all-time career for pitching, and 2.93-ish, 86 ERA. I know it's under 3. Coached many local legends in the area. We're excited to have you on today and see where the show's going to go.
I enjoyed being on with you guys.
Thank you so much,
Gary. It's been a while since I've seen you. You're looking great.
Well, been through. I lost a bunch of weight, so I'm in playing shape again.
Maybe it's the hat. It looks like you hit a golf ball a long ways. I don't know.
I've been doing that lately too. So.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you're lefty, right? I mean, you swing left or you just throw left?
No, I just throw left. I swing right. So,
all right.
One of those flaky lefties.
Well, look, Mike wore his VB hat.
Oh, yeah. I wore my VB hat today representing the 12U Pups, the local travel team here today. I wear a different hat every show.
And I did my best to represent you today. I wore my All-Star jersey.
Well,
this is not Major League.
If I knew you guys were going to be wearing your jerseys, I would have put on that one of my old ones. I don't know if I could fit into it anymore, though. So.
Well, this one used to be large on me, so now it does fit. So, Gary, speaking of All-Stars, so you played several years, obviously, in the major leagues. You made the All-Stars 2 years. I'm really curious because on the show, the theme is Decide to Dominate, which is the book that I wrote. So in those 2 years, obviously, you did something where your peers and others voted you in to the All-Star. What happened in those 2 years that didn't happen the other years in terms of you dominating?
Well, I think, you look at your career from different time frames, I guess. And when you first get to the major leagues, you're excited, and then you learn to adjust. And then as you go through each year, obviously, there are a lot of things involved in success. I think if I were to look back on my career, I thought I probably should have made the All-Stars probably one more time. But having said that, everything's predicated on, performance. Obviously, sometimes performance can be dictated by a bloop base hit versus a line drive at somebody. And, that's what happens in careers. And then as you get older, I think you look at it and just trying to continue to perform as well as you can. And then from there, you just, keep wanting to prolong your career as long as possible.
Now, you had obviously some great teammates. Who are some of the teammates that you would pick out today and recall, and maybe some you stay in touch with?
Well, I think I had Darrell Evans, Jack Clark, Atlee Hammaker, Bob Nepper. Then with the Blue Jays, Ernie Witt, Buck Martinez, Lloyd Mosby, and Jesse Barfield were great teammates. My years, most of my years were spent with the Giants, as you know.
Right.
And that's most of my fond memories. That's when I was in my prime. And then I went to the Blue Jays, and I probably was the best team I was ever with was the Blue Jays. We probably should have won the World Series in '85. We lost to Kansas City in the ALCS. We were up 3-1, and they came back and beat us 3 straight games and went on to win the World Championship.
Wow.
So, but Tom Griffin, old teammate, Dave Rader from the Giants, Atlee Hammaker, like I said, Jack Clark. Those guys have always were, stay in touch with them as much as possible. And, as well as I do that you could be away from guys for 20 years, and yet when you see them again, it's like you weren't apart at all. So,
absolutely.
That's the camaraderie that you get as a teammate.
Was it interesting kind of finishing your career with Oakland, because San Francisco, then Oakland in the Bay Area were good friends with Eric Burns, who grew up in the area, played for the A's, and grew up a San
Right.
Fran fan, big Will Clark guy. They've actually got a show here on the No Filter platform. Like, talk about that kind of being at San Fran, then going to Oakland, just that whole vibe.
Well, near the end of my career, in 87, the end of my the year of 87, I ended up with Oakland, and obviously it was interesting because Oakland was the upcoming team with guys like Jose Canseco, and then Mark McGuire was a rookie the following year. They had Dennis Eckersley at the time, and they were starting to come into their own as a team. But my career, I was on my way out, and I finished up the 87 season with them. I went to spring 88, but that was, I didn't, got retired in that spring of 88. So and then he went on to win the AL. And of course, they lost that famous series against the Dodgers. When Kurt Gibson hit that home run. So, but it's always been interesting. I played for different managers, and Tony Russo was the manager at Oakland, who was a very good manager. And, I played for Bobby Cox, Frank Robinson, Joe Altobelli. I mean, I could go down the list, and everyone has their own personalities and their own way of doing things.
Yeah, we always say, in DJ's book, Decide to Dominate, there's a lot of crossover between athletics and business. And when you think about the managers you just mentioned and their different styles, I'm just curious, you just listed some pretty famous names. Out of all of those managers you had, did you have not necessarily like a favorite, but just someone you more gelled with their style? Or was there a reason for that?
Well, I think the two that stick out the most probably was Bobby Cox and La Russa. And I think the one thing they did well was utilize their coaches, their personnel. And, all of them have their good qualities and things that maybe you don't agree with. But as a professional, you learn to, you got to do your job, and you can't worry about what the manager is doing. I mean, that's his job to do what he's going to do. And when you get your opportunity, you go out there and do the best you can. You don't always agree, but that's the way it is.
And Gary, now we know you've been a great manager at the high school level and at the collegiate level. I'm curious, did you ever have any aspirations of being a manager in the big leagues or in the minors?
Well, when I retired, I'm a family man, and my wife asked me not to go back into pro ball.
No kidding.
And if you're going to do that and you're going to work your way up the ladder, you need to do it right away as your name is out there. But I have no regrets. God has been good to me, and I have a wonderful family, and I'm so thankful for what I do have.
So I'm curious, out of all the managers you've had, who would be the best manager of the first $700 million man?
Oh,
I tell you, I hate to say it, but today's game is so different than when I played. We were the generation of players that brought in the free agency, the arbitration that has now prospered the game of baseball.
Right.
And the reason I would say today's player is so different is because if you're paying a guy like Ohtani $70 million a year as a manager, I mean, how much control are you going to have over, you're not going to bench the guy because the front office is
right. Yeah.
So, from that standpoint, you got to deal with the agents, you got to deal with, personalities. And as a manager, it's really about being able to deal with every personality you have on the team and motivate them. And you got to learn how to do that. Some guys, the old saying was some guys need a kick in the butt and the other guys need a pat on the back in order to motivate them. So It's a challenge for these managers because, you can't, what are you going to find a guy if he's not doing something? You know, to
Right.
what point? So,
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I hear that a lot when we talk to our friends in the NBA. It's really just like managing the personalities as it is more of the coaching these days. And
exactly. And I think that's throughout all sports. And
yep,
obviously now we got into the analytics generation of sports, and things are more run from the computer. Like the show, than, you know. So you got to learn. And I'm not a high tech guy, and so if you're going to coach today, you got to be up to date on the analytics and all the stuff that goes with it. They got all the fancy high tech machines that gauge everything you do.
yep. Yeah, well, obviously, with what we do at Sports Innovation X, we're always looking for innovations, technology, how they fit in the sports world. Like, what are your thoughts on like technology innovation, kind of in the sports space today? Is it overrated? You see a benefit to it? Like, kind of, what are your thoughts in general, just technology in sports?
Well, I think there's some really good things about it, but it doesn't give the whole picture or tell the whole picture. For instance, in analytics, you look at all the different, you know, reports that come in, and you're saying this guy is more effective against this guy. Well, what if and I'll go back to pitching for an instance. If I have my good stuff that day, it doesn't matter what my success rate was against that particular hitter coming up, because I might not have my best stuff that time I last faced him. But now I have my best stuff. I'm willing to challenge him, and I'll have success when I have my best stuff. And so when you look at analytics report, it doesn't always, determine that you're going to have success or not have success. And I think you can depend too much on analytics and not go with your gut sometimes. And I think as a manager, a coach, you have to go with your gut sometimes and not just look at X's and O's.
Yeah, I think that says a lot just to the athlete in general, right? It's like, I don't care what the analytics say, throw them out the window. I'm gonna get this guy.
Yeah.
Like on that vein, did you ever have someone when you were pitching in the MLB over the course of your career where either so I guess two sides of the question. You had this guy's number every single time. You just knew you had his number. Or on the other side, was there a guy that you hated to face and, you felt like it was a battle or maybe he had your number?
Well, I think, every player, every pitcher for sure goes through guys who he dominates and players who dominate him. You have your percentage of success against guys. I've always, one of my fortes was that I felt I could get any lefty out consistently because being a left-hand pitcher, and I just love pitching against left-hand hitters, and I had a great success rate against most of them. And then there's always that guy who's the thorn in your side. So uh, you look at your career, and you have guys who have more success against you, and you have more success against them. Like I had a lot of success against one of the greatest hitters ever, Tony Gwynn.
Tony Quinn, no
His
kidding.
name comes up all the time on our show. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I had a hard time getting guys like Dusty Baker and Ted Simmons out. So, everything's relative, I guess. And, you ask the hitter, and sometimes they'll tell you that, hey, I just see the ball better against this guy versus this guy. And that is true. And whatever reason, only God knows for sure.
And so going back to Shohei, going the pitching and the hitting, obviously he's got the arm injury now and going to be mainly hitting instead of pitching. But, did you ever want to grab the bat and hit during your day? Did they tell you to stay completely away from the cage? Did you ever
Well,
have the
we had a
opportunity to
hit.
training?
I'll say this. Coming up, I was a good hitter in high school. I got drafted out of high school. I was a good hitter from the minor leagues on up. to the big leagues, I actually did not bad hitting. In fact, the one year I think I batted 260 in AAA. But once I got to the big leagues, and you concentrate on pitching, obviously, and
Yep.
you don't get to hit very much. I would say I was not a very good hitter in the big league level when they started throwing all those wrinkles at you. You know?
Yeah, being on the receiving end's a little different. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
kind of miss seeing the pitchers hit. I feel like it added a cool element. I get it with the run production and everything, but I missed like the strategic side of the NL
Yeah,
with that,
absolutely.
I miss that a little bit.
So,
Yeah.
so Gary, you
Go
weren't a
ahead.
good hitter, but what about bunting? I mean, you had to be a great bunter, right?
Come on.
I was a great bunter because we had to practice it all the time.
Yeah.
When I get up, the opportunity to get up, because I was a late inning guy coming in the game. If the game was close, and there was a man on base, I was gonna have to bunt him over. And so you practice it all the time, you become a good bunter.
Right.
And I could teach it too, so that was a good thing.
I'd love to hear the teaching.
I mean, and the other thing too was like over a 13-year career, did you ever get pulled in on a day you weren't pitching to like sack bunt for someone?
No,
Or
that
sack
never
hit?
happened. No, I
Okay.
guess they felt all the pitchers could either bunt, or if they're going to send up a pinch hitter, it wasn't going to be the bunt.
Yeah, right.
So I'm curious though, Gary, like, when I was with the Mets organization, the way they taught bunting, I'd never heard of it before. So they make you actually face the pitcher, right?
Right,
I
to
mean,
square up.
you have to square up, and the only thing that moves is your body up and down. The bat doesn't move.
Right.
Now, is that how you were taught?
Oh, well, that's how I did it. Yeah. You learn to move, bend at the knees. And, you put the bat at we were taught to put the bat at the top of the strike zone. Anything above it, you wouldn't go after. And then move down, up and down with the pitch. And we angled the barrel a little bit so you can, get on the ground. And, I think the dying art in baseball is bunting. Like I could never understand the shifts that they did.
Talk to Eric about this.
Mm.
Yeah.
And yet, when they had the shift where you could have bunt the ball down third baseline
Yes, all
and get
day.
a hit, they never did it. I never could understand why you wouldn't want to take a hit if they're giving it to you.
And even our kids, like, I work with a lot of young kids, and I'm just like, you're fast, lay one down. They just all want to like go yard, that's like the thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
and especially if they're in a slump, I'm like, hey, not to be mean, but you're 0 for your last like 20. Just try laying one down, like what's another 0, 0 for 21. You're fast.
Yeah, I tell guys like DJ, you're good, would be a good example. You were very fast. Why not utilize that gift and increase your batting average? Guys who were speedsters need to learn to bunt, and because it was going to add a bunch of points to your batting average.
Absolutely.
And I just think bunting the small ball kind of died out in the big leagues, but hopefully it'll make a comeback one of these times.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, well, talk a little bit about that transition to coaching. For those of you that aren't from the area watching the show, we know you coached at Greenbrier Christian for a while, and then Brian Stratton for a while. Are there any, I'm sure, and I know in my mind, I think there's a couple of guys that you coached that went on to play in the major leagues or a lot in the minor leagues, probably. Any good memories or relationships with some of those guys?
Yeah, I think all the players that played for me, I'd like to say that I enjoyed coaching them. They're really a fine bunch of young men. Even the ones that were uh, talented that went on to play in the big leagues. I think Josh Roop was one of them. Butler was one of them. And then I've coached a lot of guys who were from just development standpoint that weren't Greenbrier guys. But my years at Greenbrier I enjoyed because it was just, you're around a lot of really good young players, and you have a lot of fond memories of those times.
Well, Gary, and with that, I mean, you had tremendous success with those teams. I remember. Matter of fact, I remember one game, and I think it was only once that I coached against you. When I was
hold on. You coached against us? Okay, okay.
And I brought my A game.
Did you win?
No, we didn't win. We had no chance. I told
this is why I haven't heard this story, Gary. All right.
Hey, I gave my guys the best motivational speech I could possibly give. Wasn't enough. But Gary, a lot of success at that level at Greenbrier. What are some of the things, some of the qualities that you taught those guys back then? That I mean, because it wasn't just 1 year, 2 years. I mean, we're talking about decades of winning.
Mm-hmm.
What did you implement from an instruction standpoint as well as psychological?
Well, I think development is a key to no matter what, and the way I look at players and evaluate them is, all right, where are their fundamentals? Are they fundamentally solid? Where's their weakness? Where's their strength? And then I look at then that's the physical qualities, and then when I look at the mental qualities, are they competitive? Are they fearful? Are they want to go out and compete? I want to give the ball to a guy who wants the baseball. A pitcher that wants to be in the big game, and I kind of we talked about that, did a lot of philosophy on, spoke a lot on that. And the one thing, as a Christian, coaching at a Christian school, I've always believed that whatever you did on as unto the Lord. And I try to instill that in the players to go out and do the best that you can do, And I was not an easy coach. I think from a standpoint, I demanded, that they give effort, and if they weren't willing to give effort, they were going to ride the bench. And I think eventually that philosophy starts carrying over. And the other thing is that you try to develop leaders who, that you didn't have to be at practice in order for that practice to be a good practice, because players would take it on themselves to, do what they're supposed to do. And I think that's important, that players take hold of responsibility.
Yeah, that's great. So you coached at Greenbrier Christian, obviously Christian Academy. At the time when I was coaching at Rock Academy, which is also Christian
Right.
Academy. Now, I'm not bragging, but I did get thrown out of one game.
I had a few of those.
Yeah, so I want to hear about that. So why did you get thrown out, or why was it worth getting thrown out?
Well, I'll tell you the one that comes to mind. We were in Northampton, playing over in eastern Virginia there, up in Northampton, and the umpiring up there was very home, cooking. And we had a team, and this is how it happened. We go over to play them, and we know they're coming over to play us at our place. So we go over there to play, and the umpire was calling for us strikes from the toes up to the head. And for them, you had to throw right down the middle,
Right.
And so I just went over to the umpire in between innings and said, you're making a joke of this game. I said, you can't do what you're doing and be fair to any of these young men. And he threw me out for that,
He threw you out for that.
Yeah, and we ended up losing that game. And I'll tell you how it was like 2-1 or something. Okay. They come over to play us, and I didn't try to pour it on. It's just the players were, uptight. We won that game at our place 30-0.
Oh my God. That's a bit of a statement.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just goes to show you what you can manipulate a game by poor umpiring.
Oh yeah.
And that was the one time that I think was justified. I knew I was going to get thrown out because I couldn't believe what I was seeing with the umpiring over there. So that happened. I've thrown out a couple times when we went to trips to South Carolina and played down there. And the
Oh,
same
yeah.
thing. I mean, you end up getting home cooking a lot of times, and I don't think it's fair to the players.
Do you think, especially being in an academy like that, do you think that you getting thrown out helped the players? Did it inspire them? What are some of their reactions that you're aware of?
Well, I think they were definitely aware of that. The players saw what I was seeing. So I think when you go and support your players through the discussing with the umpires in a form of debate that they're wrong, the players see that and know you're for them. And I think that's there's games where I think you get thrown out on purpose
Mm-hmm.
in order to motivate a team, and I've done that in college. So, uh, you know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
I feel like that's even like another thing changing in the game. You don't see that as much anymore unless you're watching a Yankees game. I mean, he gets thrown out like every week. But,
Right. I mean, in the major leagues, those guys, they see what's going on in a game. You could almost predict that he's going to be thrown out before the game's over.
Right. I miss like the kick in the dirt and throwing
Right.
the hat and all the things.
Yeah, the old Earl Weaver
But,
style.
Yeah, right.
Billy Martin
Yeah,
days.
Billy Martin.
Yeah, Billy Martin. Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I know we're kind of at our time. We only had about 30 with you today, and we know we really appreciate your time. You got any other last kind of questions or anything?
Well, I appreciate it.
Well, Gary, actually, I did want to ask you one more thing because I mean, you did have a chance after all those years of coaching in high school. You spent some years coaching college players. So I'm really curious. What was the difference? And what are the positives that you learn or that you provided to the college kids that you didn't necessarily do at the high school level?
Well, I think from a college level, if the kid's development was limited in high school, and we were a junior college program
Right.
at Bryan Stratton, and you're seeing the flaws from these kids coming into college that they're going to have a hard time having success.
Mm-hmm.
And in college, and particularly at junior college level, you're not going to cut guys as much. You've recruited guys, so you're going to keep them.
Right.
And they want the enrollment, obviously. So you have to, you're continuing development, but it's tougher because their muscle memory's been ingrained so much, and their bad habits are there, and they're a lot harder to break at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So at college level, it's still development, but recruiting's the key to success in college. So you got to get the players with, the skill level that's needed to win at that level.
Yeah.
And so you're always competing. It's kind of like what's going on in, you're looking at the NIL in college sports today. It's crazy. And
yeah, I know we only got a couple more minutes, but I would love to I was actually going to go right there. Like, what are your thoughts on name, image, and likeness and everything going on?
Well, I think, I don't know, I hate to say it, but if they're going to have to limit at some point, otherwise it's going to ruin the sports. I looked at the portal, and I'm a big college football fan, as DJ knows, and I'm a Penn State fan. Not just because of DJ, but
grew up in Pennsylvania.
Grew up in Pennsylvania. And I follow that pretty closely, and I see all the portal transfers. And it was like, 4,000 or 5,000 this year?
Right.
Some crazy number. And, you got to wonder how that's going to happen. To be a coach at that level and deal with all that stuff, man, it takes a lot of work, a lot of preparing. And I don't know, money. It's kind of like professional sports. You wonder how they pay those guys as much as they get paid, and at what point does it start having an effect on the quality of the programs?
Mm-hmm.
So, it'll be interesting to see in a few years how they manipulate or, how they navigate through it.
Right. I mean, I think it was hard enough to go to a major college or even a small college and participate in sports and then also deal with the academics.
Right.
Now you've got to run a business on
Exactly.
top of that and deal with all the aspects along, with NIL. So at least in many cases, a lot of these kids, I mean, that's a triple.
Yeah, I always believe that the college athlete particularly at the Division I level, they needed to do more for them, because those guys are bringing in a lot of revenue. It's a question of, at what point is there a fair, dividing of it amongst all the athletes.
Right.
So, time will tell.
Time will tell with all things.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us on the show. You were an amazing guest. I mean, such a wealth of knowledge and, great career, both playing and coaching. And, we wish you much success in retirement and on the golf course.
I appreciate it, guys. Enjoyed being on.
Yeah, Gary, thank you for all that you've done for the community.
My pleasure.
Certainly
Hope you guys have a blessed Christmas. Happy New Year.
Yes, sir. Merry Christmas.
Sir.
Happy New Year to you too.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
All right, guys.
All right. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
Gary.
All right.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Thank you.